welcome back to my author commentary for A Prince of Song and Shade. Today we're up to chapter 41, and the chapter immediately following 42 is quite a short one, and these are the two bridging chapters before things really start to ramp up for the last part of this book. So I'm going to talk about them both together today, and then next time I see you, we'll be kicking on towards the end, which is I'm really looking forward to. So we start off today with Talyn kind of really struggling to cool her heels up at the Skyreach. She's been distracted so far from obviously the continuing grief she feels over her father's death, the fact that she's not doing anything against vengeance while she's stuck at the Skyreach because she's been on the trip to Montan with all the excitement that came along with that, but now they're all safely back at the Skyreach, and Cuinn and the winged folk are skimming up and down the mountain all day and drinking and having parties, and she's kind of sitting there going, I'm not doing anything, I'm not achieving a goal, I'm not working towards the safety of my home country, and as has been kind of touched on before and comes into it again and again, the Dumnorix struggle when they don't have something meaningful to do. So Talyn's kind of struggling with that, and she's also got a lot of time to reflect, and those kind of recent interactions with Cuinn where he's kind of betrayed more of himself than he really should have, that's starting to nag at her. She and Sari kind of are starting to realize there's something going on there, but Talyn can't quite place her finger on it just yet, but it's definitely starting to become a growing kind of nagging at her. She's also noticed the change in Cuinn since he's been reunited with Ivani, even though she has no idea that's the cause. And she raises that during a trip down to Darmor with Talyn and Corrin. They're none the wiser either, but she's not missing that's something going on there as well. So all these little things are just kind of playing into her restlessness, and she really needs to be able to do something, but she's kind of stuck up at the Skyreach for the moment. And then down in Darmor, while she's hanging out there with Talyn and Corrin, and Talyn, the fantastic second that he is, gives her the opportunity to have a conversation with Corrin about his behaviour during the time in Montan, and he's kind of railing at the slavery and not behaving in a way that he really needed to. He's genuinely apologetic, and I think even though we don't see these conversations that Talyn has had with either Talyn or Zamrul, who also responded badly, this conversation with Corrin definitely sits, because we do see, as if you've read on to particularly King of Masks and Magic and A Duet of Sword and Song, Corrin's the one to really become the natural successor for Talyn. He really takes the opportunities to learn from his mistakes, to grow, and he's very thoughtful, I think, about his role as a wolf. And that's a lovely little kind of conversation the two of them have there, as well as Talyn's announcement that he'd like to marry Corrin's mother. And at the end of this chapter, we have a run-in with vengeance. They kind of deliberately taunt Talyn and her wolves by kind of showing their face at the inn and then making a run for it, and essentially baiting them into chasing some poor kid down the streets of Darmor. Talyn makes Talyn even more uneasy. She knows that this means they're up to something. A question I'll leave with the reader is this kind of taunting something that Sania, such a pragmatic kind of ruthless leader, would be doing, noting that in the next chapter we learn that Azralan has returned from Montan, but I will leave that to you to think about in terms of what was really going on there in Darmor. The very next chapter is an interesting conversation at a party Cuinn's at. He's kind of hiding out in the balcony, growing less and less enchanted with kind of engaging in this kind of partying lifestyle, and Azralan comes out to find him, having returned from Montan. They have quite a fascinating discussion, and there are a few little seeds I planted quite deliberately in this scene. The first is a subtle reference to the house bond of Montan. Just a brief noting there of how Cuinn's song magic picking up how relaxed and at peace and kind of content Azralan is after spending so much time with House Mananin back in Montan. The house bond is a fairly powerful thing. It's not entirely dissimilar from the Dumnorix and how they kind of gain strength from each other. when they're around each other and that kind of emotional support. It's a very similar thing with the house bond. It's not touched on much in this particular series because Montan looms as one of the villains, and we don't get as much of the softer side of Montan, but it will definitely be explored further in the sequel series, Book of the Doom Shroud. But another implication also lightly dropped in this scene, it's this, again, being a tricksy author, this scene is designed on the surface for it to appear like Azralan is the nicer brother. He's kind of out there talking to Cuinn. He's making a meaningful emotional kind of plea to Cuinn to kind of help him, that Mathanas is the bad guy and maybe they need to worry about things and maybe they need to do that together. And he's kind of being nice to Cuinn, and it's kind of very much designed to kind of lull the reader into thinking that Azralan is the nice brother. But there is a very clear implication in this conversation that Azralan has already figured out who Talyn is. The two brothers watch Talyn and her wolves return from their trip down to Darmor, and Azralan immediately turns the conversation to the Siantar family, which stuns or surprises Cuinn, but again, it's designed to make that link. If you're paying attention to the fact that Azralan may have already worked out who exactly Talyn is and what her link to the Siantar family might be. And then there's a parting reference to, he's a manipulative bastard, Azralan. He makes an off-the-cuff, casual, apparently accidental comment about Mathanas and Rhea, who we know is Cuinn's first love, found murdered outside his room when he was only 16. Mathanas was not behind that murder. Spoiler alert, it was obviously Azralan. Azralan knows that very well, and he's again in this conversation very carefully setting Mathanas up to be the bad guy. He's using his song magic as much as Cuinn is, and Cuinn doesn't think to realize that or pay attention to that because he doesn't imagine Azralan's a bit of a blind spot to him, as I've said before. He's, from Cuinn's perspective, the nicer brother. So Cuinn's never really had a reason to look at Azralan like a threat. He kind of just piles him in with Mathanas, being Mathanas' man, but beyond that doesn't pay a lot of attention, I don't think. And so he misses a lot of this. A very weighted conversation, a few little hints dropped in there quite deliberately. I'm not sure if you picked those up on first reading, but they're definitely there for rereaders to pick up, and I really enjoy doing those sorts of things. If you have any questions or comments about these two chapters, drop them in the comments below. Happy to answer. Always love to discuss these scenes. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you for chapter 43, where we kick off the last part of this book, which is very action-packed, and I can't wait. I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.